Thank you, guys. Just a brief, I'm 29. I'm 28 right now. Yeah, so I've started climate action when I was 20. When I was 20, so I'll just try to share my journey. Just currently, I'm a global shaper at World Economic Forum. I've recently trained in climate reality by Al Gore, a former US Vice President, and I also am co-founder of indigenous tribal projects in Eastern Ghats. Yeah, yeah. So just give me a second. Yeah, so I want to just share my experiences and my journey in this field, and I hope it can intrigue some energy in you guys today. And I strongly believe youth can make a significant impact, not in just their lives, but they can influence community much better than anyone in this world right now. Yeah. So it all started in 2013. I was 19, 20 years old. I was just doing my engineering at the time in an engineering college. But when I saw this news about Uttarakhand floods, it was shocking for me to see how people are getting impacted, and those images actually. I couldn't sleep well for days, and I thought of doing something, but I don't know what can I do. I was just in college, and I was like, I should do something. And fortunately, I don't know how. I spoke to the district collector's office at the concerned affected areas in Uttarakhand. That's my first time calling in government officials at a high level. And fortunately, the response was very positive, and and then I went to my college authorities, and I told, let's do some fundraising efforts rather than just doing a lip service. Let's be part of do something for the people there. And I took it up on me, and I did some fundraising efforts back in 2013, and I brought the trust factor by interacting with the government officials in Uttarakhand, and so that whatever fund that we give it will actually materialize in the right way. So it started. It's still not about climate action. I was still figuring out what to do in life at that time, and I didn't know much about climate change and others. Then in 2000, yeah, I'm just trying to. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So in 2014, I passed out of the college and I landed up in an MNC in Delhi. Everything is going fine, but I was still wondering, am I in the right place? There are a lot of other things which are pulling me, to work on grassroots and all. That's where Nepal earthquake came in 2015, and I was in Delhi at the time. Again, a similar kind of experience of Uttarakhand. A lot of people got impacted, and there's a lot of news reports. But again, I wanted to do something. But this time, I thought of even do further and let me go on the ground. And let me tell you, it's no easy journey. After earthquake, if you've heard, there are aftershocks, and you need to be ready for that. When I talk about aftershocks, I'm talking about magnitude of 6.1 and 6.2, which are considered extreme. And yes, I did face those earthquakes in my journey to Kathmandu because I had to travel by a truck, with my friends, how we met. We all met online, for just this cause. And we went on a truck to Nepal, and we've met the vulnerable communities in the Himalayas who are impacted with this disaster. I spent 2 weeks with those families, and that has touched me a lot. Seeing it by my eyes, and how their houses got rumbled. Right, you can see the rubble on the left side of the picture, right? And I'm talking about that picture almost for kilometers of journey, right? So that moved me a lot, and and I put down my papers in the corporate. I thought something is pulling me, and I think it's better I start early rather than wait for settling down in the career and starting after 40s. So I thought of putting down my papers, and then I started working in development sector, mostly on grassroots and all. I'm still not aware of climate change. I was 20, I'm 2014, 2015 at the time. I'm still not much aware of climate change. But then I was reflecting, how come such disasters like earthquakes becoming so frequent and so intense? How are floods becoming so frequent and so intense? So I started browsing a lot on internet. I started understanding, and then I started connecting the dots. then I came to understand, like, the intensity and vulnerability of these events have amplified in the last few decades, especially after, in the in the new industrial revolution, thanks to a lot of anthropogenic pollution and all those things. So I started understanding, yes, there is something bigger thing that I need to solve. I was just browsing on the internet, like most of us do, and then I came across this expedition, like where young people are invited to Antarctica to understand the impact of climate change. I was like, can people go to Antarctica at the time? Because I'm not sure, is it open to people? But then, yes, fortunately, I applied and I went through. And the biggest challenge for me is I'm not working at the time. I need to raise a funding of almost 10 lakh Indian rupees. That's something like almost like 10 lakh Indian rupees. It's quite high for me at the time, not working anywhere. So I had to go to the boardrooms in Hyderabad and surroundings and pitch about me and and all those things. It's a wonderful exercise. And yeah, you can see the picture, right? This is where we went, right? Almost. And this is my team there. And we've seen a lot of icebergs. We've seen a lot of the most pristine places on this planet, I would say. I can still say that. Yeah, I've been to the Himalayas, I've been to many places, but this always remembers in my heart, Antarctica. This is a tipping iceberg, and this is the land. This is the picture that I've taken, the penguin colonies. And but on the flip side, everything looks good. The weather, everything, the climate, beautiful sunsets, beautiful sunrises. But again, on the flip side, you can see a lot of other things happening, there's Antarctic ice loss. If you see, how it's happening, right? In 2009-17, I was there in 2016. Has increased by 200 over 200%, right? The ice loss. And what's happening is this with these penguins, right? They're losing their habitats because of the ice loss, right? And I witnessed a lot of ice melting every day. And this is also one of the team I'm part of at the time. And this is my expedition leader, Robert Swan. He's the first person who walked both North Pole and South Pole. I was just doing the solar panel. I'm being an electrical engineer. I thought of testing renewable energy there. I was just doing some solar panel testing and all those things. But I thought of doing something. I feel gratitude is something which can bring all of us together, and we should do. So when I went there, I thought of collecting all the good people, and why don't I write postcards? And then I've written to the chief minister of Sikkim at the time, and because Sikkim is the only state at the time who's completely organic, right? And I felt really good, and I thought why don't I congratulate, right? And I did written 20 plus postcards to different parts of the world, and they were very happy, and they published on their Press Trust of India. A lot of news articles from the government has come of Sikkim. So I feel small gratitudes can also make a lot of difference. So that's why I thought of putting this slide. And this is me raising our flag proudly in the continent. Yes, as Vikas rightly pointed, Antarctica has definitely motivated me a lot to incline, and it's a personal transformation more than anything. And this is something that I've written in Echo Harbor in Antarctica. I always read this. It's 22 March 2016. Bear with my handwriting. My handwriting is much, much better, but the temperature is minus 10 degrees, and I had to remove my glove to even scribble this. So these are my thoughts. I'm seeing heaven in front of me. Can hear sounds of nature. Nature is beautiful. It's pleasant. It's calm. It's creating ripples of happiness. I just heard sounds of chunks of ice collapsing. I can see many country citizens, but I wish to see a world citizen. So these are my words, sitting in the continent on the ice with minus 10 degrees and a lot of wind, writing this world. So why I'm sharing is that climate action is something that we can't say that you're from one country or you're from one country. We need world leaders to come together. We need all of us to come together, because we are all facing this challenge. And that's why I've told, we need a world citizen to actually fight this. Let me go to my next slide. Yeah. Yeah. So after coming back to Antarctica, I was wondering, I did raise a lot of sponsorships, but I was 23 at the time, but I should come back and do something. So that's where I started, personal transformation, right? So I was just reading a news articles in India, and I came across there are vulnerable tribal communities in the eastern part of India on the Eastern Ghats, and they're having challenges of access to education, healthcare, and all. So I met a journalist, and he took me to a tribal community called Kodus in the eastern side of India, and this was my picture in 2016 with them, just with those children. They don't have any access to education, no proper healthcare, but they're still happy. But they're not sure about what is their future because most of them are into child labor, unfortunately, because of no education and all. So, and as a community, we did a first meeting with the community. Yeah, this was my first meeting with the community in there, and it's not easy. Trust me, me doing a first meeting. The trust is a big challenge when working with such indigenous tribal communities living in the forest. But fortunately, we built the trust in a very short time, and we're able to build this school with the community, volunteering their efforts. We had to just give them material, and they themselves built the school. And now are these happy faces. They, like every child, they also have access to education now, access to government programs like midday meals, all these things. And I've started a similar intervention in other hamlet. You can see the transformation, right? It was 2019. Again, they don't have any access to education. They're happy, but they're unsure about their future and into child labor. In 2021, just few months back, I was there, and they also have access to education like every other child that we see. So for me, working with tribal communities is important because they have the highest biodiversity in the world. 80, as per the stats, 80% of the world biodiversity is in the forest. And these tribal communities are the protectors of our forest. If you don't help them with access to education, if we don't help them with access to healthcare, unfortunately, they will either migrate or they will either, completely collapse. Their communities will collapse. So that's the reason why I feel working with communities, especially vulnerable tribal communities, is important to protect our rich forests and our rich biodiversity. Yep. So yeah. So this is one of the journey that I did after coming back to Antarctica. And then again, I was thinking I should do more. And then what are the simple things that I can do, lifestyle changes in terms of reducing my own carbon footprint, right? So I started picking up cycling. I did cycle in my schooling. I did cycling in my plus one, plus two, but I didn't do it in my engineering. But I was thinking I didn't do before Antarctica, working in Delhi or some other places. That when I was in Bangalore and I was in Vijayawada at the time, I started commuting to work with cycle. And you can see as on today, I completed almost 7,000 kilometers on cycling. Like I don't own a two-wheeler, I don't own a four-wheeler in terms of fossil fuel, but I'm happy that I commute by cycle. And I always talk to people you need not wait for a separate cycling lane, on roads. You need not worry too much about safety. You can actually, cycling takes you a much faster time in cities like Hyderabad and Bangalore, which are already congested, and it's very healthy thing. Yeah. So, and then I was like, I should take this message to masses, and I should reach to children, because I strongly believe if children are being aware of climate change, if children are being aware of environmental things, they can definitely take decisions quickly in terms of their lifestyle, and they can be more aware because it's their future, right? That's now under threat. And they can also influence communities, especially their parents. So with my friends, Akbar and other few friends, Bharat, and we went on a cycling expedition in Andhra Pradesh in the southern part of India. So it was a 2,000 kilometers expedition for 3 weeks. So the main idea is to meet communities in the mean way, especially farmers, to talk about natural farming, to reduce the pesticides, and also to meet children, especially in public schools, and talk about how environment is impacting and how climate change is happening. So this was happened in 2019. So this was me presenting a session to children there in a high school. And yeah, this is some picture in one of the community, right? So that is their happiness for me. So whenever I go to tribal communities, I get myself energized by seeing small things that are that we feel they find happiness in a lot of small things. So what are the top things, right? I mean, everyone can do many things. I don't push on the agenda. So, right. So one thing, easy things you can choose walk, right? Pedestrian, you can do cycle. I'm not talking about doing cycling or walking every day. At least if you can reduce one trip by car or one trip by a two-wheeler, which is emitting fossil fuels per week, I think that itself is a great start. So you can do that. I've been doing it for 3 years. Initially, I understand your friends might be going in a two-wheeler and your friends might be going in a car. But at a personal level, I feel very strong, when they see me cycling every day, and and I feel proud, I'm in the solution part, right? I'm not creating more emissions, right? And again, right, eat more locally grown season food, right? I don't still understand why people in South India eat apples. We still have more nutrition in other foods like Goa, right? Equal more nutrition. So I don't think so. We should import foods and all. We have a lot of good foods. Every country has a lot of wonderful seasonal foods, right? So think about the footprint, right? Importing food from avocado from Brazil or Australia or New Zealand, right? How much of footprint it's getting added, right? So try eating locally grown food, which is quite easy. I'm trying to follow that. I'm much happier, eating the locally grown food these days, right? So, and if possible, try to procure it from the farmers, because unfortunately they're the most vulnerable people, right? When it comes to climate change, not all of us are equally impacted, right? The rich developed countries and the rich people in the world or in our country are happy. Even if there are climate change impacts, they have their earthquake proof wonderful shelters for them to save, right? But unfortunately, these farmers, we can't protect them with this climate impacts, right? So try to procure food from them if possible, and get yourself upskill, right? I think you're already there. Like I can see almost 30 plus people already there getting upskill now, participating in this kind of discussion itself speaks a lot about you. And I recommend a documentary called Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore. It's a wonderful, an eye opener for me. In terms of putting the facts, how much are we actually impacting? What are the things that we can do? So please do watch it. And I've recently myself got trained. It's completely a free course on climate reality, and it's a network of 37,000 people across the globe. So please get enrolled in such training courses. It's completely free, and that itself can build you that network and make you feel that you're not alone and you're not lost, and you're a lot of people. And volunteer with organizations. I completely agree with Nishant Garu. You need to volunteer, right? And as Vikas rightly mentioned, even I enjoy volunteering with organizations, who are working in different fields, and my field is climate action. So I'm part of an international group called Youngo for the past 2 years. I can see a lot of colleagues here also on the panel, and I'm also, even though I run my own initiative, I feel if I'm part of with other organizations, I can also learn. So I'm also part of Global Shapers. It's a World Economic Forum chapter. We recently completed 10 years. We have hubs in 175 cities across the globe. And yeah, so help communities who are vulnerable to climate change. That's what I was talking, not everyone is impacted, right? Even though there is floods happening, you can see Uttarakhand floods, Kerala floods that happened, right? Who are the people that are impacted? They're not the people in the city, the people who doesn't have a proper shelter, the farmers, they are the people who are getting impacted. So try to work with the communities. Yes, this is a global problem, but you need to start acting local, right? You need solutions which are localized, which can be which works for your community. We can't compare solutions that's happening in Africa and that's happening in America, right? So think about the global problem and work locally. And yeah, so I always talk like, do the 1%, right? I don't believe in complete transformation from tomorrow. I'm going to stop plastic or I'm going to stop fossil fuels. No, it's not going to happen. It will take time. It'll trust me, it will take time. It's not easy changing yourself every day, right? So please push this 1%. I always talk to people like, reduce your footprint. It's not easy to suddenly, change your lifestyle. So it's okay even if you do 1%, reduce 1 kilometer of traveling on fossil fuel. That itself is a very good thing. So yeah, please be positive, right? We need, yes, there are disasters, yes, there are so many things happening like COVID, all those things, but I think ultimate thing is we need to take the positive message. If you have seen, like, the solar prices are coming down like anything. They're now almost competing with the fossil fuel prices, which is very positive. And electric vehicles is booming like anything in India right now, and a lot of peoples are now fortunately are moving towards electric, right? Like that is very good. And there are a lot of positive things. A lot of young people like us are not talking about climate action instead of talking about other things, right? So there are so many positive things. So please see the positive side of things, and happy to connect, happy to share more about any of the experiences that you want to know more. And yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity, guys.
I'm pretty sure that many of the audience want to connect with you. I'll share his contact number and also all the panelists, so you can get in touch with them and interact too.